So this is the review for our third quiz. On the first one, I try to identify the function for the graph. Well, this function here, let me zoom in, is the square root function. So to transform this function to the one seen here on this graph, we're going to shift it up 2 units, and because it's in the opposite direction and upside down, we're going to multiply by a negative sign on the outside, and that's going to make it upside down, and on the inside, so it could point in the right. Now to shift it up 4 units, we simply add 4 to the outside of that square root, and there is your answer. Now the next one doesn't flip the graph. All it does is simply moves the graph 1 unit to the right and 3 units down. So our reciprocal function, which is this function here, we're going to shift it 1 unit to the right by subtracting 1 to the x and subtracting 3 to the entire thing to shift it down 3 units. So this is your answer for this one. For number 3, this function again is the absolute value function, and this function is upside down. So flipping it upside down so the v can open downwards right here simply requires us to have a negative outside the absolute value, so like this. But this graph is also shifted from the original position. This vertex points is shifted from the point of 0, 0 from the origin 2 units to the right and 4 units up. So to shift it to the right by 4 units, we're going to add, 2 units, we're going to add 2, and to shift it up 4 units, we're going to add 4. So this would be, again, our function rule. Well, of course, f of x is equal to this. For the next 3 problems, we want to identify, well, just describe, we're not going to identify, we're just going to describe the transformation for each function. So here, let's start from left to right. Well, actually, let's start from right to left. So the 9, this is going to result in a shift of 9 units down. So we're going to shift 9 down. So we shift 9 down. The 4, subtracting 4, that's going to result in another shift, but 4 to the right. And the 3 is going to result in dilation, specifically a vertical stretch by a scale factor of 3. So that's what those 3 numbers are going to do. So subtracting 9 is going to shift it down. The subtraction of 4 inside the parentheses with the x, that's going to shift it to the right. And the 3, the multiplication of 3, is going to result in a vertical stretch. Now for number 5, the 5 on the outside, that's going to result, again, just like the last example, that's going to result in a vertical translation. So this is going to shift vertically 5 units up. Now the 3, because it's on the inside, this is a horizontal dilation, and that is going to compress it, or the word shrink is I believe the one I used on Edge Elastic, shrink by the reciprocal of 3. So we're going to shrink it by 1/3. And the negative sign, well, that's going to result in a reflection. And it's a horizontal reflection, which means that we're going to jump over the y-axis. And finally, for the last example here, the 8 is going to shift the graph 8 units down. That's a vertical shift. The 1/4, because it's on the inside, is a horizontal dilation. And specifically, the dilation is a stretch. We're going to stretch this thing, enlarge this thing by a scale factor of 4. And the negative sign, This time, because it's on the outside, this is a vertical reflection. It's still a reflection, but this time it's going to be over the x-axis because it's going to be vertical, so we're jumping across the x-axis. Now for number 7, 8, and 9, we're using this piecewise function, and for number 7, we're going to plug in 4. Well, since 4 is equal to 4, we're going to use the bottom equation. So we place 4 into the x in the bottom, and we simplify. So we subtract these two numbers. That's going to be, that's negative 5, and the absolute negative 5 is positive 5. So the answer is going to be 9. Now on the number 8, we're going to plug in negative 3. Well, negative 3 is bigger. Negative 3 is bigger than negative 4. So again, we use the bottom equation, and we're going to plug in negative 3 into this x there. So we subtract it again by 1, which is negative 4. We get the absolute value, and our answer is 8. For number 9, since negative 5 is smaller than negative 4, we're now going to plug in that number into this one right here, into that x. So negative 3 times negative 5 plus 9, that's 15 plus 9, which equals to 24. So that's the front page. Now let's go to the back page. So for the back page for number 10, we're going to graph a piecewise function. So here our boundary line is 2. So we have this boundary line of 2, and on the left is the constant of 3. So when x is equal to 2, the y value is going to be 3. And for anything to the left, again, we're just going to have 3. So if x is equal to 0, x is equal to 2, the y value is going to be 3. And since x is like 0, the y value is still going to be 3. So we're going to have a horizontal line on the left side. Now on the right side, we'll start by again plugging into 2, but this time because it doesn't equal to 2, for this equation, when I plug into the bottom x, I get negative 1. But this point that's 2, negative 1 is going to be an open circle, and then I just simply plug any number again to the left of that. So for example, 6. Let's plug in 6. So 2 times 6 minus 5, well, this is 12. And 12 minus 5 is 7. So at 6, the y value is going to be 7. So 6, 7 is right there. So I connect these 2 points, and that's what the right side of the graph is going to look like. And remember, this line right here is just an imaginary line. So this is just again to indicate where my separation is. So that one you don't really need to graph. So let me just erase it, get out of the way. Now for the last 6 functions, this has to do with lessons 113 and 114, function operations and compositions. So on number 11, we're adding just simply f and g. Well, f is this function here, and g is this one. So we're going to add these two functions together. So x squared plus 3x minus 10 is added with 6 minus x squared. And we don't need parentheses here since we're going to add these two things together. So I don't have to group any of these two with parentheses. And then just simply combining like terms. So x squared and negative x squared, that's equal to 0. 3x squared doesn't combine with anything, so that's the same. But negative 10 and a positive 6, that combines to a negative 4. So this is your answer. Now to subtract them, again, to subtract f and g, this time I'm going to put g in parentheses, so I distribute that negative sign, and I subtract again both of those terms, not just the first one, but both of them. So subtracting both of them, we have a negative 6 and a positive x now. So combining like terms again, this time the x's add up to a positive 2x squared. The 3x again does not combine with anything. And negative 6 and negative 10, that adds up to negative 16. So this is the subtraction of f and g. Now number 13, that's multiplying g and h. So let me highlight h. So we're going to multiply those two there. So g, which is 6 minus x squared, is multiplied by, and again, you know how much I like doing this, using this geometry figure, 2x plus 1. And then I multiply these two things by 2x. So that's 12x and negative 2x to the third. I then multiply these two things by 1, and that's 6 minus x squared. So my answer is negative 2x to the third, a minus x to the second, a positive 12x, and plus 6. Now number 14, this is a composition. Here, hog of x means that we're composing h of g of x, which means that g is going to go into the h. Since h, so we're going to start by writing an h and replacing, again, this x with g. So this is going to go into that x right there. So that's going to be 2 times the x, again, is replaced with 6 minus x squared, and then plus 1. Distributing the 2 into the parentheses, we have 12 minus 2x squared plus 1, and then we have 13 minus 2x squared, since these two terms combine to give us a total of 13. And here is your answer. Now, for number 15, what this means is that we have f of 4, and we're going to divide it by g of 4. So let's start by first figuring out what f of 4 equals to. So that requires us to plug in 4 into our x. And that's going to equal to a total of 18. I plug in also into g my value of 4, which is 6 minus 4 to the second power. Again, that's just, again, using what I know about, again, using the same two functions, f and g, and just plugging in 4 into the x's for f, and plugging in the 4 into that one x right there. We're going to have now negative 10. And what I want to do is, again, now simply divide those two. So dividing 18 by negative 10 is going to reduce to negative 9 over 5. And there's your answer. Now for number 16, this is another composition, but now we want to plug in f into h, but replace the x with 1. So we want to first do this composition. We want to do h of f of x, and when I find that's total, I then want to plug in the 1 afterwards to evaluate this. So here, we're first going to plug in the f into the h. So that requires us to get h, which is 2 times x, again. So let me go up here. We're going to get to this function and plug it into that x. So it's 2 times x plus 1. And we're going to replace the x again with x squared plus 3x minus 10. So 2 times x squared plus 3x minus 10, and then plus 1. Let's distribute. So this is 2x squared plus 6x minus 20, and then plus 1. Well, these two are like terms, and they simplify to negative 19. So let's just write negative 19 there. Now that I know what h of f of x equals 2. Now let's plug in the value of 1. So this will be 2 times 1 to the second power plus 6 times 1 and then minus 19. So that's 2, 6, minus 19, so negative 11. And that's your answer. So your answer for number is negative 11. And there you have it. So that is our review. If you have any questions or need further explanation, send me a message on Remind or through email. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful good day.